to another episode of Tampa Bay Politics. I'm your co-host, Angela Birdsong, affectionately known as the Medicare Lady, and I'm here with my co-host, Mary Geraci.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Journalist extraordinaire.
Thank you.
And we're so lucky to have with us an outstanding judicial candidate, Mr. Younger.
With a Y.
With a Y. Thank
Not
you
an
so
L.
much. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And thank you for being here. And you know what? We always start off with your unique story. Now, where were you born?
I was born not far from here, Tampa General Hospital. Actually, my mother and father were both born at Tampa General Hospital. My dad grew up a few blocks north of 7th Avenue in Ybor City, and my mother grew up in Palmacia. In fact, if you take the Beta Bay exit off of the crosstown, the Beta Bay exit took my mother's childhood home. So that's where she grew up.
Wow. So how many generations in Tampa? That's 2 or 3?
3 generations.
Wow.
Yeah.
The rare Tampanian, born and raised, huh?
Right around 1900, my mother's family came here, and my father's family was here prior to that. So.
And where did they come from?
Well, let's see. My father's side, his father is from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and his mother is from an island off the coast of Honduras called Rotan. She's actually of English descent because it's an English settled island. Not to get too deep in the weeds on that, but it's kind of a romantic story. A young man by the name of Antonino Litrico came from Sicily as a seaman and found himself on the island and found himself a job with United Fruit Company. And he met this nice young lady named Mary Alice Jones, who lived in Jonesville on the island. And the two of them had 11 daughters, not one son.
Wow.
And 7 of them survived infancy, and one of them was my grandmother.
Okay.
Nanette. And they came here in the early 1900s.
And what did they do?
They were in shipping. They shipped fruit from Central America. In fact, worked very closely with the Geracis.
Yeah, the Paisanos.
In those days, and
Nick
yeah,
Geraci.
that's
yeah.
right. They yes, they ran at one point in time had 5 boats, ships that ran back and forth between Honduras, the Cayman Islands, Tampa, occasionally Cuba, and New Orleans.
Very nice.
But the headquarters was here, and my great grandfather sent his daughters to Academy of the Holy Names here in Tampa, which at the time was a convent and what you call it, but the girls actually lived there.
Okay.
And went to school there at the same big building there on Bayshore Boulevard. So, and then on my mother's side, my grandmother came from a little town next to Lake City, Florida, in the north called Wellborn, and she came down here for health reasons when she was very young. Met my grandfather, who came down from Chicago. Actually, he came down after the hurricane. I believe it was the disastrous hurricane that destroyed Lake Okeechobee in that area, and there were thousands. And he came down here as part of the government forces to clean that up, and decided to stick around. And stayed in Tampa and met my grandmother, and the rest is history on that side of it.
Wow. Okay, so where did you go to school?
I went to public schools here in Hillsborough County. My mother was a teacher and then a principal.
Where did she teach?
Oh, she taught all over the county. She ultimately became a assistant principal in many schools, but was the principal at Broward Elementary, which is the historic Seminole Heights Elementary School.
Yes, it is.
Beautiful building right there on Osborne. And so I usually followed, at least through the 6th grade or 7th grade, I followed my mother wherever she was teaching. Which was wonderful for a young boy.
Yeah.
But it was great, and she was a fabulous teacher and very well liked. And then I ended up in high school. I went to Jesuit.
My son had a couple of Jesuit years.
Well, good. Yeah, well, good for him. Men for others, I tell you.
Yeah.
It was probably the best 4 years that formulated and shaped me in my life, and I just have nothing but good things to say about the institution.
I agree. They change boys to men.
Yes, it's wonderful. And then University of Florida. I was there for a little over 4 years. I took the extra semester to finish out, as many students do. I was a journalism major at University of Florida, and I'd actually worked shortly thereafter as a journalist, both photojournalism and writing, and made a determination that I think it was an hour, $110 a week I was making as a journalist was not going to cut it for me, and so
Thanks. That was my career. Yeah, I'm still making like $1 an hour.
took the LSAT and went to law school.
That's
in
what I started
1983.
off in too.
But you know what?
Communications, TV and
To
radio.
me, in my whole career, there's a very parallel relationship between being a lawyer and being a journalist. Asking questions, doing your research, finding out what's going on. There's parallels there.
Well,
I bet that prepared you to be a good lawyer. Maybe it didn't, did it?
In fact,
I hate to be speculative.
In fact, I tell young people all the time who come to me and say, "What should I study? What should I
Yeah.
do? Where should I go?" I say, "Learn how to write.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're going to be a lawyer, learn how to communicate, learn how to write." And I believe, just as you stated,
Yeah.
there is no better training ground than a journalism degree to teach you, because there's a lot of similarities.
Yes,
to teach
there
you
are.
how to first of all find facts,
Be critical thinkers.
distill facts, and present those facts in a cohesive
Yeah.
and succinct way to tell whatever story it is you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And as advocates, as attorneys, we obviously utilize our voices a lot, but
Sure.
that
Yes.
is that is after we have submitted motions and we've submitted pleadings to the court that must again be succinct, be factual,
Right.
and tell a story
Right.
that you want the judge to agree with ultimately.
Yeah.
So yes, it was a fabulous training ground, and I tell people all the time, young people all the time, learn how to write, whether it's a journalism degree, or some kind of degree that requires
Communications,
you
yeah.
to sit down and learn how to communicate with others in a succinct way.
English degree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
An English degree as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm sorry, I didn't want to, I don't think I heard, what law school did you graduate from?
Yeah, I went to South Texas College of Law in Houston after I graduated from University of Florida, and had the career change after a short time. But I went out to Houston, and went out there with a broken down Toyota, a bicycle, and came back with a wife, a son, and a career. So Houston was very, very good to me.
Wow.
I
Okay, so
actually
your wife
practiced-
is from Houston then?
I practiced for a couple of years in Houston at a very large firm. And when I actually married a law student, and she was from New York, and we had a son. And once our son was born in 1988, we made the decision that we were going to move back to Florida. And I was lucky enough. My father, after a teaching career at Chamberlain High School, he went to law school way back in the 60s, and he had a thriving practice and offered me a position in his firm, and he and I practiced together for about the next 10 years after that.
Okay. So what is the name of your law firm?
My current law firm is Yanger Law Group. Currently, it's me and a paralegal and a couple of contract attorneys that we contract out to depending on the need. Over the course, I formed that in 2011, and over the course of the last close to 10 years, we've had as many as a dozen staff, paralegals, and lawyers. For many different reasons over the course of the last year, I've streamlined and been very comfortable, basically being my own boss, number one, and the only actual lawyer in the firm in the office. Well, I take that back. My father, he's 86 currently. He actually was in the office yesterday.
Okay. He's still
He
practicing.
remains a practicing member of the Florida Bar. In
That's
fact,
great. That's
2 years
great.
ago, I took him over to Orlando for the Florida Bar Convention. He got his 50-year medallion. So
Congratulations.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
and he still comes in and tells us how to do things.
I bet he
So,
does.
Yeah.
Boy, you know what? I feel sorry for you. First of all, your mother was your teacher or your principal in every school, and now you have a law firm, and Pops is checking in, making sure
Yeah,
you're
he-
doing all
he's-
your P's and Q's.
He's checking in, and he comes in and gets his stack of yellow pads because he's still old school.
Oh,
No-
yeah.
no,
I
email.
am too.
No email.
No
Everything's
email?
Yeah.
everything's written longhand.
I love
and,
that. I love that.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
room for that.
So what kind of
Absolutely.
law do you practice down there?
I am probably 90% of what I do currently, and probably for the last 15 years of my practice is business disputes. For a short phrase. For instance, company A buys 100 widgets from company B, and company B only delivers 50 of them. They hire me to either get the money or to get the widgets back. Business disputes, a lot of lease agreements, a lot of non-compete agreements. I do federal work. I do trademark enforcement and Communications Act enforcement, and that typically revolves around, you might see UFC fights and MMA fights are shown at local bars. Well, those bars require licensing to show those to show those shows.
I know a little bit about that since my ex-husband was in the music business.
He was.
Well,
and
you
music
probably
being played in various venues.
I'm sure you guys pay BMI fees here to.
Yes.
So I know similar to that. So I do a lot of enforcement on that.
Do you know Brent Brighton?
I don't.
Oh, that's what he does, is copyright infringement mainly and stuff like that.
So business disputes, I'm a mediator, Supreme Court certified mediator, so I probably handle a dozen, 10 a dozen mediations a year, which I enjoy because it actually puts me in a position of assisting other people that are not my clients in resolving disputes, which ultimately that's hopefully what I'm going to be doing sitting on the bench.
Yeah,
sure.
Why the business angle? It sounds exciting, at least, or interesting.
Well, it's interesting. I started off when I was with my father. We did injury work. He was a workers' compensation attorney. I handled personal injury, the classic auto accidents, slip and falls. Some medical malpractice way back when. And long about, I guess it was about 98, 99, my practice started to morph because friends of mine, who I went to Jesuit with and went to University of Florida with, who had started businesses, started having legal problems. Hey, this guy owes me a couple of $1,000. Can you call him? Can you write a letter? Or I just got sued by a former employee. What do I do? And so all these people started calling, and that started to grow. And ultimately, I found that I had much more interest in the problem solving for small businesses than I did in the injury work. I have a great deal of respect for my very, very good friends who continue to do that work because it's essential on behalf of folks. But my personal interest kind of morphed into representing small and medium-sized businesses who get into some sort of issues with that they need to resolve in the legal system.
Yeah, I think I'd find that exciting. I don't meet that many people who do the small business angle like that.
Well, I can tell you that nothing, and again, I take nothing away from my very good friends who do the injury work, but every case that comes into my office typically is different.
Yeah.
The facts are different. The people are different.
Businesses are different.
The type of business is different. So it's always a challenge, but it's a challenge that I accept readily and enjoy.
Now, you're running for office, and this is not your first time, right?
It is not my first time. I am running for a county court judge, Group 7. And we can talk a little bit about county court and circuit court judges because there's a number of races in this current election, and we can talk a little bit about that.
Educate us all you want.
Educate us.
But I am running in that race. I have 3 opponents currently. And 3 opponents will always be 3 opponents because the qualifying is way over, and we have an election in 12 days.
Right,
so election in 12 days. But I'm running for county court judge. Just a brief kind of rundown on what the difference between county court and circuit court, because I know that the listeners and voters will see several circuit court races on their ballot as well as the single county court race that I am in. The courts are divided by essentially jurisdictional amounts, and what I mean by that is the amount in controversy. Say it's $8,000 small claims case or a $100,000 injury case.
Okay.
County court handles cases $30,000 and less. Circuit court handles cases in excess of $30,000. Mm-hmm. Now that's on the civil side. On the criminal side, county court the short version handles misdemeanors and domestic violence, and circuit court handles felonies and family law, divorce, and that kind of thing. They have a jurisdiction over those. So the county court is a very, very busy court. In fact, it's going to be becoming much busier because that jurisdictional amount just raised from $15,000 to $30,000 this year, and in 2023 it's going to move up to 50,000 in an effort to take some of the pressure off the circuit courts. They are just jammed, as the county courts are jammed as well, and we've,
Why is that? Why are we so jammed up with all of this jurisprudence and litigious activity?
Well, a lot of people have to resolve disputes, and unfortunately, if they can't resolve them themselves, then they have to go to the court.
Well, we have a larger population now than ever, right?
Well,
1,000 people a day are moving to Florida or some ridiculous thing like that.
We do, and people, unfortunately, people continue to commit crimes or are
involved in something,
alleged to have committed crimes,
Right.
and therefore, constitutionally, the courts must address those.
Because we're
And
jam-packed
people
downtown.
and domestic violence. People get into fights.
Yeah.
And they're getting into more fights now at their home more.
Yeah, the corona.
There is a large
effect.
spike, I am told, on
corona
domestic
effect.
violence complaints.
Yeah,
As a result of
absolutely.
people being locked up with one another 24 hours a day.
I
You're
just
gonna
resort
find
to
a lot of
drinking
love
heavily.
or something else.
I just resort to drinking heavily. Me and the cat.
All right, so we're all very, very confused as to how many races are being are going to be on the ballot, and where we're going to see your name on the ballot. So can you help us out with that?
Sure. Well, I talked about the circuit races and the county court race. The county court, there's a single race, and there's 4 of us in the race: Nancy Jacobs, Monique Scott, Rick Silverman, and myself. And then there are 4 circuit court races. And forgive me for not going through all the names of all 4 of those.
Okay. That's okay.
But there are 4 circuit court races, and but we're all campaigning now, and we're all out there, and all of them will be on the ballot. The state races, which circuit court is under the guidance or under the umbrella of the state, the county court is under the umbrella of the county. So the county court race is further down the ballot. So I'm urging everybody, read all the way down the ballot. We're
Down
just
ballot up.
Yeah, we're just above soil and conservation.
Wow. And now, are you county-wide?
Yes, all judicial races are countywide. We get asked that question a lot because we're designated by group, and all the group number really does is just give the opportunity for, logistically, that seat is given a number, and so that they can say, okay, group 7, group 32.
And group 7 is mainly what? South Tampa?
Group 7 is countywide.
Countywide.
Everything is countywide.
Yeah, so you want all the people to know that regardless of where you live in Hillsborough County, Mr.
Right.
Yanger will be on your ballot.
Yes,
Right.
I will. And keep in mind, too, that the ballots are listed alphabetically. So my name will be at the end, unless I ever run against someone named Ziegler. I will be typically at the end of the ballot. So read all the names and get to the bottom of that. Not only the bottom of the ballot, but the bottom of that individual race. And I will be down there, starting with a Y, Yanger.
So how are you expecting to transition from where you're at now, and why would you want to move into a judgeship?
Well, the transition is going to be it'll be a challenge, as it is for, I believe, any advocate who's been doing it as long as I have, 34 years, since 1986. I tell people that, I walked into a courtroom for the first time when Ronald Reagan was still president.
Wow.
And the first year Martin Luther King, actually, we had on Martin Luther King Day. So I've been doing this a long time, and for a number of reasons in the last few years, some things have happened in my life that kind of made me sit back and say, what kind of shadow are you going to cast? What kind of, not to get too deep, but what kind of legacy are you going to leave? What are you going to do with the 34 years that you've put in and to this community? And what can you do to give back to that community? And I determined that it was in what I believe to be a moment of clarity, and that occurred in August of 2016. I lost my 22-year-old daughter to a domestic violence homicide down in Broward County.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And as a result of that, I worked with the prosecutor and the detectives down in Fort Lauderdale for a couple of years in an attempt to try to get the case charged. It is still an uncharged case, and remains so. And I have pretty regular communications with the detectives and Sherry Tate, who is the lead prosecutor down there. And they have it essentially open. It's their experience, they tell me, that cases are solved regularly because if they couldn't file it immediately, someone walks into a bar or starts playing pool, has a few too many beers, and starts to run his mouth, and facts start to come out.
So are you saying you don't know who it was?
I'm saying it hasn't been charged.
Okay.
That's as much as I'll say now.
Okay.
Yeah.
The war against women is real, and domestic violence is murdering women. And I'm so sorry for your loss.
Well, I appreciate that.
And rape, you might get 2.5 years if you rape a woman in our prison system, and it is overlooked. And I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate it, and I certainly don't come on shows like this and stand in front of folks or on Zoom forums and talk about it because I want people to feel sorry for me.
No.
There's a lot of people out there that have gone through. In losing a child, there's not many things that are more difficult than that. There's a lot of people that have gone through it, and I feel for them. I just want people to understand that if that had not happened, I would not be sitting here right now. I would not have run for judge.
Okay.
I sat down and said, what do I want to do with my life? And I do believe that, and I think the campaign has borne that out, that I have the respect and friendships of many people in this community, not just the legal community, but the community at large, who have watched my practice and myself grow over the course of the last 34 years, have known me and gotten to know me, and I want to give back to that community. And
who has endorsed you?
Well, I think we've gotten somewhere in the range of about 21 or 22 endorsements. So all the major publications, the Tampa Times, the Florida Sentinel Bulletin, and the La Gazzetta all endorse me. The firefighters, both the Hillsborough County firefighters and the city firefighters, endorse me. The Teachers Union, the Hillsborough County Classroom Teachers Association, as well as the West Central Florida Labor Council, which represents over 100 labor unions here locally and about 116,000 members on the west coast of Florida. And then a number of IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Right down the street.
Yeah, and that's correct.
I
That's
know
right,
a lot of the brothers. I used to work in the film industry. So.
And the Teamsters, they've endorsed me as well. And a number of local politicians and leaders, Dennis Alvarez, Chief Judge Dennis Alvarez, Julie Holt, who's the public defender.
Right, Julie.
Karen Perez, who is a very well-respected school board member, and a number of others. So I've been blessed to get those endorsements and appreciate every single one of them.
And you've earned a lot of them. Tell me about some of the work you've done throughout your entire career in this community, all the volunteer work, the pro bono, the organizations that you belong to. Let us know what those are.
Yeah, I from a community standpoint, for the last 10 years or so, I've been very active in the South Tampa Chamber of Commerce. I was chairman in 2016. That was a wonderful experience, not just because it was kind of in my wheelhouse, really, dealing with small businesses and the people that own them every single day. But it was very fulfilling. We had a mission of getting, because MacDill Air Force Base is in South Tampa and such an integral part economically of our community, we have a great deal of projects and connections with MacDill, including assisting individuals leaving the military in getting acclimated to our community, buying homes, getting jobs, starting businesses.
Oh, so there's support there. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, huge.
Very nice.
Great programs that the Chamber puts on. I'm most proud, I believe, over the last 8 years, 2012, so yeah, about 8 years, I have been on the board of the Early Childhood Council, the Hillsborough County Early Childhood Council.
Okay.
Not many people know about it, but it's probably one of the most, I believe anyway, it's one of the most necessary and vital services provided here locally. It's funded a little more than 50, maybe 60% by the Children's Board.
Okay.
And then our board assists in raising the additional funds necessary. But what the Early Childhood Council does is over the course of a year, we're down this year for obvious reasons, but we'll talk about that if we need to. Over the course of a year, we do assessments on infant through pre-K children in hearing, sight, speech, and cognitive ability prior to them getting into kindergarten and first grade, where those disabilities, if they're determined to have disabilities, become a problem. And we get them assessed. We find them, get them on a road to medical care that will
Wellness,
assist them with
yeah.
those problems, as well as assist the family in making a determination as to why is my son having this issue, or why
Yeah.
is my daughter having this issue, so that they're not in the third grade and we're just then discovering
Right.
that the learning disability that no
Right.
one knew was there was causing issues.
Or something as simple as not being able to see the board or read.
That's right.
When we were
Yes.
children, remember, all of a sudden someone in fourth grade's like, oh, I need glasses. Well, what were you doing the first 3 years?
Right.
You were missing out on a huge chunk of your education.
And
not
you know
being
what?
able
We
to
had
see
the
board.
Democratic Black Caucus forum last night for
Yep.
a school board,
Yep.
and one of the school board candidates mentioned how important it is to diagnose these things early,
Right.
because then they're falling back, and then
Sure.
it's so hard for them to catch up.
Well,
Absolutely.
we do close to 3,000 assessments a year.
Wow, that's
throughout the
phenomenal.
community, everywhere from Waimama all the way up to Keystone in that area, typically with the assistance of community centers or local churches, where we'll bring in sometimes 50 to 60 kids in a given assessment day. We can't do that now
Right.
because of
Right.
COVID, but we are doing phone assessments,
Yeah.
and to the extent that we can do that effectively, we're doing phone assessments.
Can you give out
On
that
these
number?
children.
Because someone could be listening and needs that
Absolutely.
service.
Yeah, I don't know the number, but I can say it's the Early Childhood Council, Hillsborough County Early Childhood Council, ECC, and I believe in fact, I'm pretty sure that the website is ecctampabay.org.
Okay.
And if anybody has any questions about it, they can also Google me, Bill Yanger, and my phone
Yeah, how
number
can
is
they
there.
get hold of
Yeah,
Bill
because we're
Yanger?
going to take our first break. Give us some numbers
Okay.
and deets and
Yeah. My cell phone is 813-601-9500. I do answer my cell phone. If I don't answer it right away, leave a
give that
message,
again.
and I will
Hello?
get back to you. 813-601-9500.
Thank you.
My campaign website is yangerforjudge.com, and that's FOR, not the number 4. yangerforjudge.com. And I like to direct people to my law firm website, and that is yangerlaw.com. Not for business, well, certainly for business anytime, but
Yeah.
we really have a very, very good and extensive list of really the type of cases that I've handled over the last 34 years and the type of clients that I've represented. We try to leave the specific names out, but for obvious reasons. But you can look at that list and really get a very firm grip on what I do for a living.
So for research, give that again. Give 'em nice
Yanger.
and slow.
yangerlaw.com. YANGER law LAW.com.
If you wanted to know what's up, how Mr. Yanger has been working on the cases he's working and showing interest in the candidate, check in, right?
Need
That's right.
volunteers?
Yes.
Need some money? What you need?
If anyone wants to call the office because they have a significant business issue, we will be glad to talk to you. And we do not charge for our consultations. I'm of the opinion that a lawyer cannot make a determination as to whether or not you have a case until he talks to you.
True.
I don't think we should be charging, and I have disagreements from some of my colleagues, but I believe we should be charging to lawyer, not to determine whether
But do
we're
you
going
need
to lawyer.
donations
Oh,
for your campaign?
Well, as a judicial candidate, we can't discuss financial issues. We can't ask
Oh,
for
you
donations.
can't ask
Yeah.
for donations.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
And
that.
when we return, we're going to talk about some of the stipulations you're under
Yes.
because they're mighty and they're many.
There
Yeah.
might be
First of
many.
all, we got the corona, so you're not doing, which, as you say, going door to door and kissing babies, right?
Right.
That's out of the question. And not being able to talk about money, finances. So let's explore that because I think most voters have very little information about what it's like to run for judge, what to be a judge, and what are some of the parameters that judges work on.
Well, I look forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to flesh it out.
We campaign under very strict guidelines promulgated by the state Supreme Court called Canon 7, and we can
Okay.
talk about that when we come back.
We will because we have to pay some bills. Talking about money, let's go to a break. That's your audience. They're in the computer.
Welcome to Calvin Alvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other
and had
in
no
no time.
idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay
it's
calm
don't
and keep
ignore
to the
this
plan.
message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Smooth Soul is In Touch Radio.
We're back with judicial candidate Mr. Bill Yeager. And you know what? He told me that it's his birthday. So you know what I have to say to that? Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday.
Very nice.
Thank you very much, Angela. I appreciate that.
I'll do
Yes.
the 5-cent version. We're going to party with some Bacardi, but I forgot how it goes. Hers
Yeah,
is
we
much
feel
more lovely.
sorry for birthday people because you can't celebrate like you want to.
Yeah.
But we still love you.
Well,
Yeah.
at this stage, I don't know that I want to do much celebrating. I hit the big 6-0 today.
Oh,
So-
wow. You did not look 60.
Hey,
Without
I
a
hit the
guess.
big 6-0 on the 28th of this month.
Oh, you too?
I think we talked
I'm the
about
baby of
that.
the bunch. Next year for me. I'll go 59 in November.
Well, you know, old as dirt is what I say.
Well,
That's not what I say.
Just about myself.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Oh, you guys are funny.
We,
I'm
we got
fine
a way,
wine.
we got a ways to go, though, Angela. I'll
She's
tell you.
fine wine. We're putting her in a bottle on a nice shelf and letting it mature, right?
Amen.
Fine wine. So let's get back to the story. There's a lot of stuff going on with regulations, things you can say, you can't say. Your hands are tied a little bit in this electoral process. Can you tell us about what you have, the gamut?
Yes.
You have to run through the gauntlet, excuse me.
And it probably is the most frustrating aspect of running a campaign, a judicial campaign. You know, I've been fairly active, not necessarily with a particular political party, but I've always been informed and kind of active for friends who have run for office and things like that.
Sure.
And you know, the rough and tumble of a political campaign, you know, say for state representative or county commission or mayor, as we saw last year in our mayoral races.
Right.
That just doesn't and cannot happen in a judicial campaign for a number of reasons. The Supreme Court has promulgated a number of canons, and canons being essentially rules that
Right.
they set forth that govern the activity of attorneys and
They
judges.
cannot be broken. Yeah.
And Canon 7 specifically deals with what judges and judicial candidates can or can't do during the course of a campaign.
Okay.
For reasons that may seem odd to some, but frankly are logical if you think about it. The Supreme Court does not want judges discussing, opining, responding to questions regarding current legal issues or societal issues that may come before them. In other words, we can't discuss issues related to abortion. We can't discuss issues related to Second Amendment. Sentencing disparities is one thing that comes up all the time. People want to know, what's your position on sentencing disparities between, a young black man and a young white man? We can't talk about those because as soon as we get on the bench, that is essentially what we're probably going to be facing.
Right.
And the Supreme Court doesn't want a judge who has espoused previous the word bias might not be appropriate, but the previous opinions and biases.
Proclivity.
Exactly, prior to even getting on the bench. And there's both logical reasons for that, and there are, real world reasons for that.
Yeah.
If in fact a judge has, say, made some comments regarding some sort of sentencing disparity, one of the lawyers on either side, either the prosecutor or the defense lawyer, if they're a smart defense lawyer, they're going to come in and say, Judge, we want you to get off this case because you previously said X, Y, and Z regarding this issue. So we can't do that. And that is frustrating for voters because voters want to get to know us and who we are and what we do and what we think about things. What I tell them is look at our record. Look at, and again, I referred it back to yangerlaw.com.
Right.
You can see the type of cases I've done, the type of clients I've represented, and that may not give you an indication as to my proclivities on a given issue, but it does give you an indication of the type of experience that I have.
And how you work.
Exactly. The type of experience I have, the type of cases I've done, the results we've gotten for our clients, and where those clients are. I mean, in the last 10 years, we have represented clients in 33 states in the United States, and still represent many of them, and at least 6 countries, China, Germany, South Africa. And I thank the internet for that because our website and our tagline on our website is worldwide reach, Florida focus.
Okay.
And so, but back to the issues we were talking about. So yes, it makes it difficult on the campaign trail because people want to ask us questions. People want to know issues that they live with every day, how we feel about those issues. If it's beyond qualifications and experience, we have to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't discuss that with you. And sometimes people understand, and sometimes understandably they don't.
Yeah. Okay.
But we do the best we can to get through it and hope that they go do some research that may give them a better understanding of who we are.
And then there was another step. How does a lawyer learn to be a judge? You said there is a process. You've mainly handled business. Prior to that, you did with your father, correct? To handle a variety of cases. But how does someone who handles business or contract law end up being a judge that possibly has to go through a myriad of systems? You might end up in family court. You might end up in a different arena. And you were saying that's kind of neat that they judge you, they place you in an arena.
You go over that, how that works.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Once elected, Chief Judge Ron Ficarota here in Hillsborough County and the 13th Judicial Circuit will sit down, after the election and make a determination. Okay, what, like a football team, who's my tight end, who's my wide receiver, who's my quarterback, what are their set of skills, what type of cases have they handled in the past, and how long have they handled those cases, and he'll make a determination as to where to place that judge initially.
Okay.
A lot goes into that decision, and Ron is probably someone better to answer about what particularly goes into his decision making. But typically, young judges, or I should say not young judges, because I will never be a young judge. But
you're new at this.
I should say rookie judges.
Newbies,
is better. Newbie judges. Understandably so, have to make that transition from advocate. I mean, for 34 years, I've been walking into courtrooms, thousands of courtrooms in front of thousands of judges, representing clients with a particular point of view. And we this is what we want the judge to understand. This is how we want the judge to rule. That's far different than what a judge does sitting on the other side of the dock, looking down at the parties and making a determination as to who he's going to favor or who he believes is making the appropriate argument, or what the law is and how he's going to decide on that rule of law.
Sort of like the same thing, getting back to journalism. At one time, we were all considered fair and balanced. And you were studying journalism, or as a working journalist, You need to learn to be neutral and stay in the middle, and that's tough.
Now you're going to be King Solomon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we try not to be the King Solomon because we like. I mean, there are times and cases where that is necessary.
Yeah.
And probably the best way to resolve a dispute is for to have everybody leave the courtroom unhappy, but this dispute is resolved.
Right.
This guy didn't get as much money as he wanted, and that guy took too little.
Yeah.
Or that guy got too little.
Yeah.
So they're both going to go away unresolved. But you know what? The dispute's over, and everyone can go about their lives and not go home at night staring at the ceiling about it. It's done.
What's prepared you for this?
Well, I think, I said earlier, I started walking in the courtrooms in 1986, and I've been doing it, if not daily, certainly weekly, since 1986. And I think the breadth of the type of cases that I've handled, not only, and I was speaking last night on one of the Zoom forums, the judicial Zoom forums, the day before I had been small claims court. Literally a $5,000 case. I've been practicing for 35 years, 34 and a half. And I still show up. Nowadays, it's by Zoom, but I still show up on behalf of friends and clients for small dollar cases. $5,000 is $5,000.
So that's important.
I'd like to have it.
You're compassionate about money. You're
And
compassionate
sometimes
about...
it's a principle, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone
You're bringing
needs,
stuff in.
Someone needs an attorney to represent them, and
Yeah.
they're intimidated or unsure about it, and so we show up.
Yeah.
Obviously, a small claims case is not. We're not going to take 40 depositions, and we're not going to send subpoenas out to the world. But there is a way to resolve it and appear before the court. On the other side, I've represented extensively a world championship light heavyweight boxer who is here locally. Sat ringside after we resolved some of his disputes. He was in some financial disputes with a former promoter who essentially was trying to ruin his family financially.
Wow.
We were able to resolve those and save him from financial ruin and top it off with being able to sit ringside and watch him win the world championship in Las Vegas. I've also represented a pop star, a teenage pop star, who's from this area, who got ripped off by his promoter for millions of dollars in royalties.
Oh my gosh!
And we chased that guy across the globe. Actually,
Wow.
He actually ultimately, you may have heard the name Lou Pearlman. He's
Yep.
the man that
Yep.
started NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys.
Right.
And
all
he's
of
a
that.
bad guy.
Well, he's dead now.
Yeah.
So
He was a bad guy.
If you believe in ghosts, he may still be a bad
Well,
guy. But
you may remember the story. He was found, I think, on the island of Bali.
Yeah.
He was identified and brought back to justice. But anyway, our case was years ago, and but we were able to determine, to get a great resolution for our client. But that kind of gives you the spectrum from small claims to high dollar, big international cases, and really everything in between. I've also handled family law cases. We don't market as a family law attorney because it's just not what we do every day. But if we've got a client that has a family law issue or has a daughter that may have a custody issue or a child support issue, we don't mind filing the appropriate paperwork, going and arguing in front of the court, or attempting to get a resolution for that current client because it's just part of the services that we provide.
Okay.
Early in my career, I did a lot of injury work, workers' compensation, personal injury, Social Security, disability.
So you've dabbled in a bit here and there. You've kind of touched a toe in each one of the arenas.
I've done a bunch of appellate work. I've probably, written myself, probably written somewhere in the range of 24 appellate briefs all over the state. First District Court of Appeals up in Tallahassee, which handles workers' compensation appeals, as well as a second DCA here locally, and fourth DCA down in Fort Lauderdale, Broward. So really every aspect from the small claims all the way up through the appellate process, I've been there and done that in terms of the breadth of my experience. The depth of my experience, 34 years.
That's
do
a
anything
long
for 34
time.
years, you're going to get to know what you're doing.
Hopefully.
And
You should be good at it by now.
I believe I do. And I believe that has prepared me uniquely. Both of those, the breadth and depth, have prepared me uniquely, especially well, I shouldn't say especially, but with regard to the other people in my race, all of whom are qualified to run, all of whom are attorneys, all of who have been practicing long enough to be qualified to run for judge by the Florida bar, but none of them have the breadth and depth. And I say that professionally, and I say that with respect to their particular, because they do what they do very well. But I don't think that they have the breadth and depth of experience that I have to prepare me to wear the robe and sit sit.
Now, how many
on the
years do you
bench.
have to be practicing to even become a judge?
5 years.
Okay.
5 years.
So, what are some of the things of as you in summation? What are the things a good judge needs to bring to the table that you've learned through your 35 years of practice?
Well,
when you've worked with a good judge, when you walk into into a courtroom, there's probably days you cringe because there's a judge there. Hang 'em high, Harry, or whatever they call that guy, or you're delighted to have a judge because you know they're compassionate, they make good decisions. What are the values? What are the things you bring and you expect from a judgeship?
I answered this question recently, and the 3 things I think a judge must have and should not take the bench if he can't or she can't do that, and that is patience, patience, patience. Obviously, there are other.
The 3 Ps.
Other things that are necessary.
Yeah.
But you have just got to have the ability to sit down. And this is another one of those transitional aspects. I spent the last 35 years talking to people and telling them, here's what I think you should rule. Now we have to listen, and we have to digest, and we have to then analyze the law and the facts and make a determination as to, okay, these facts, this statute,
this law, yeah.
Who's going to, who's going to come out of here with a ruling that is favorable to them? So, patience obviously is one. Temperament is if it's not equal to patience, is certainly right there behind it. You must be able to be kind. You must be able to be empathetic. And by empathetic, I mean, look, people may walk into a courtroom. The standard voter or citizen may walk into a courtroom 2-3 times in their entire life, a traffic ticket, whatever, a DUI, hopefully not. Certainly people go through family law issues with divorces and child custody and things like that. And walking into that courtroom is an intimidating thing.
Absolutely.
It's just like walking, being wheeled into an operating room. I mean, something's going to happen to my life here in the next few minutes.
Yeah.
That guy up there or that lady up there in the black robe is going to be, making a decision that's going to affect my life. And all of those individuals go home at night, close the door, lay in bed and stare at the ceiling about something. They've got a sick parent. They've got a young child that's having learning issues.
Yeah.
They, they're having a fight with their spouse.
Sure.
They got in an auto accident a week ago and their neck is starting to hurt. Any number of things, and they're walking into that courtroom with that baggage.
Mm-hmm.
So a judge needs to understand that and understand that, that those people are going through something. Now, the judge may not be able to. In fact, if there are 2 people in front of the judge instead of in a criminal case where you're the defendant and that's it. But someone's going to walk out of that courtroom every single time not happy with the result because the judge has to make a decision one way or another. Yeah. So you can't please everybody every time. In fact, you never please both parties every time. So a judge needs to understand that, be empathetic, be understanding, but be strong, be forceful in terms of this is the decision that's going to be made and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
And do that based on years, I believe, and years of doing the same thing as an advocate, understanding how judges think, understanding how juries think, understanding, what works and what doesn't work in terms of advocacy. And like you mentioned, I've been in front of a lot of just absolutely extraordinary judges, from small claims court judges to I tried a 2.5-week trial last year. 2-week trial last year in front of Judge Buckley on the federal court against 4 Philadelphia lawyers who came down here for the week or the couple of weeks, and it was me and my paralegal in the courtroom against 4 Philadelphia lawyers, and we got a great result for our client. But the point on that is I've learned from judges who have been, I've learned and watched and learned things from judges who have been vetted by the United States Senate. There is no harder course to take in order to become a judge than to become a federal judge. We've watched them on TV.
Yes.
Those are some intense hearings, and you must go through that. And regardless of political bent, regardless of your political views as a judge or not your political views as a judge, you must have a stellar career behind you in order to even be considered for those type of positions, even on the federal trial bench. So I do believe that judges must have a even temperament, be able to handle the antics of over-aggressive attorneys, the emotions of the clients and the individuals who are in the courtroom who are, nervous and scared,
Sure.
and probably emotional and angry with the fact that they have to be there to begin with. This is not their favorite place to come and hang out.
Depends on what side of the coin
You're
you're
not
on.
seeing people on good days.
Yeah, you're
That's
not.
right.
This is terrifying. I would be terrified.
And on top of that, the judge has to do that while maintaining, typically here in Hillsborough County, a docket of several thousand cases. There are some
Wow.
judges here locally that have over 3,000 or 4,000 cases on their docket.
So how
And
many
they must-
cases do you see in a typical day, would you say?
Well, it depends on what the day is, but if it's, I can tell you, I've got a good friend who's on the bench now, and we were going to go to lunch last week, and he had to call me and say, look, I've got to prepare. I've got a 165 case docket this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Now, those
so
were
you can get
pre-trials.
through. You can get through all those cases.
Well, those were pre-trials where he was able to, there wasn't a whole lot of argument or, advocacy
okay.
by the attorneys. But
What is a pretrial? I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Right.
you're talking about pretrial. What would you do for pretrial?
Yeah, I was
I'm
getting
sorry.
there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. But pre-trials are essentially a case management type of conference where the lawyers come in or
Okay.
appear by Zoom and say, where are we? Do we need a hearing? Are there any more motions that are going to be filed? So that the judge can get an understanding of where that case is. Is this a case where the judge can say, guys, you haven't done anything in 3 months. I need someone to file something and get this
Right.
case moving. Or guys, we're going to set this thing for disposition. We're going to for a new hearing a month from now. I want X, Y, and Z done by the time you come back.
So you have to guide all that as well
Yes.
on top of everything
Yeah.
else.
It's
Holy cow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's managing those cases, obviously with the assistance of your JA, which is a judicial assistant,
Right.
Who really is kind of the traffic cop and the gatekeeper for the judge.
Yep.
But yes, so on top of all
Wow.
the legal aspect and the legal, the legal analysis, you must be a manager and you must manage your docket. You
I
must
was
make
not
sure
aware
that
of
it
that.
doesn't get burdened down, bogged down. And I can tell you that the chief judge keeps very close attention to who is able to move their docket and who isn't. Makes a determination as to why is that happening. It may be for organic reasons that the judge has no control over. How do we fix that? So managing a docket. Managing the courtroom as it sits. So everybody walks in on a given morning, and you have lawyers there, you have clients there, you have a clerk there, you have a court reporter there. That's a moving machine that must move easily, like a
Synchronized.
greased
You
wheel,
need
and synchronized so they
synchronicity,
can
yeah.
get done and moved on to the next one.
Wow, that's a lot. You're up
Yes.
for that, huh?
So are you going to see any criminal cases?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Once elected, as I think I spoke a little bit about earlier, Judge Ficarota will make a decision
Yeah.
as to where to place each of the new judges. If I land in a criminal on a criminal bench, fantastic. I'll learn as much as I can about the cases that are there then.
Okay.
Obviously utilize my peers, other judges, to sit down and say, hey, give me some tips on what works for you and what doesn't
Yeah.
work for you. Just because we're a judge doesn't mean we can't continue learning, and we must continue learning and utilize the education and the experience of people who have done it on a daily basis and go to them. And I will tell you that the collegiality of the Hillsborough County judiciary is really stellar. And it's run very well by Chief Judge Ron Ficarota. And Chief Judge, if you're listening, I'm not saying this just so that maybe you'll give me a plum assignment, but I am saying that Judge Ron Ficarota is recognized statewide as running a tight ship and having, we're one of the largest counties in the state of Florida. So wherever Judge Ficarota wants me to go, I'll go there happily, skipping down the hallway with my robe on.
Hey, wait a minute. 3 minutes countdown here. So let's wrap it up. And once again, remind us where we can find Bill Yanger.
You could talk right into that camera, look at your audience, tell them why they should vote for you, and give your details.
Well, as I've kind of touched on a little bit here over the last hour, over the course of the last 34 years, I have listened to thousands of clients with thousands of problems and worries. And for the last 16 months, I've been listening to thousands of voters with similar issues and problems and worries. These are all real people. I've discussed some of them today. they have real problems, and they're going to be walking into real courtrooms with real judges about those problems. I want to be one of those real judges. I was born here. I was raised here. I raised my 3 children here. I built my practice here, and I want to be your judge here in Hillsborough County.
Thank you. And how can we get in touch? Give me a slow numbers,
Yep.
websites, and any deets.
Again, my cell phone is 813-601-9500. My campaign website is Yanger4Judge, F-O-R, Yanger4Judge.com. And my firm website, my law firm website, where you can get some detailed information about me, is yangerlaw.com, Y-A-N-G-E-R law.com.
And did you mention there's a Zoom event coming up where folks can hear
Hobnob,
you again?
right?
The Hobnob.
Actually, the Tampa Bay Chamber has, every 2 years, they have a large gathering called the Tampa Bay Political Hobnob. Typically, it is an in-person event. In fact,
Big event, a lot of folks.
In fact, I saw Angela at the last one 2 years ago. We each had our tables and our paraphernalia and our literature and things, and we were able to shake hands and kiss babies like we talked about earlier. But obviously, for obvious reasons, that is not happening in person. But this afternoon from 3:30 to 5, there is a virtual hobnob where we'll all of the candidates, not just judicial candidates, but everybody that's running for any type of race.
Oh, that's cool.
In this cycle, will
The
be there.
tickets are like $15. Not bad.
And how do we get the info, folks? Because we're
the
wrapping it up.
Tampa Chamber.
Just go to Tampa Chamber.
It's Tampa Bay Chamber. I believe it's TampaChamber.com, but I may be mistaken.
Right.
But if you Google Tampa Bay Chamber, I'm sure it'll come right up.
We're done.
Thank you so much,
was nice
Mr.
having you on, Mr.
Yanger,
Yanger.
for
Good
coming by.
All right, Bill.
Oh, Bill, thank you.